My name is Griffin Swanson, and I'll be the one taking you through today's demonstration. I'd like to just talk about who we are here at Professional Advantage briefly. So Professional Advantage was established in 1989. We now have 12 offices that range worldwide, and Professional Advantage has also been a Microsoft President's Club member for several years. All right, so now we'll talk about collections management here. I want to take everyone through this short PowerPoint explaining some of the benefits of collections, and then we'll hop right into GP demoing the product itself. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask those in the GoToMeeting area. So first off here, I'd like to talk about some of the problems customers see today when they're doing their collecting and how collections management is going to solve those problems. So first off here, I'd like to highlight there's a lot of decentralized information in the sales and accounts receivable areas in GP. And one problem we see today is companies just don't have the ability to keep collection history on their customers in GP. So they may print off age trial balances, keep some post-it notes, or perhaps have shared an Excel file. But the main problem with that is there's really no way to share those notes, conversations, or history with other users, at least not in GP. So collections management adds value in number one, the collections main window, which is really the command center for this product, and it's great for ad hoc inquiry. You can use this main window for tracking and creating notes, setting up follow-up tasks, creating actions on invoices such as promises to pay or dispute, and then you can also access your task window, which is essentially your to-do list for the collections module. Now collection notes can also be created from the main window, and the notes have historically been the hub of collections management, really the main functionality. They allow your users to create actions, keep history, and notes on customer invoices, and then you'll also see those notes act as follow-up tasks. Second pain point that we see a lot of customers have is there's a lot of inconsistent follow-up, and with that follow-up you're perhaps using a lot of manual communication. So our collection plans here are going to allow your users to spend less time searching for customers, spend less time creating emails, and attaching invoices manually. These workflows are essentially a set of actions suggested automatically based on the due date of a customer's invoice. So you can use the predefined plans that we have set up or define your own from scratch and really tailor those to your different customer types. You will then process those actions suggested by plans in similar groups, one by one or all at one time, and I'll show everyone that in the demo today. Lastly here, bottom line, collections management is aimed to reduce your bad debt and improve your cash flow. So I'll also show a number of performance reports. We have an accounts receivable summary window. There are some smart lists and some SSRS report templates that come with the product. And then we also have some individual collector performance reports built in the product as well. And then the last thing there with collections management is it also calculates your DSO. So that allows you to track your day sales outstanding over time and really measure your return on investment on this product. Last two slides here highlight the return on investment of collections and how you can track your DSO. A good statistic to calculate your return on investment is DSO. Your DSO is indicating how much you're selling and how fast you're getting paid. So that can really indicate how effective your collection process is working. So the example I have here on this slide, highlighting for simplicity reasons, if you're a $36 million company today, that's roughly $3 million a month or $100,000 a day. And you implement collections management here and use that as a catalyst to decrease your DSO. The example I have here, let's say within the first year of using collections, you've decreased your DSO from 45 days to 40 days. So just down by 5 days. That's going to result in another $500,000 in your bank account. In the same light here, here's a simple cash benefit analysis, which really just gives you a better idea how much more money you could collect by decreasing your DSO. And then also based on some national averages on what's paid relative to due date, here's what a dollar's worth in relation to days past due. So after looking at a few of these things, it's easy to see why having a good collection system is important. All right, so let's hop in GP now and demo the product. All right, so now I'll show you collections management. Note this product is designed to manage a collection team, but it's also a great collections tool in a single collector environment. You're also going to notice in the demo today that the navigational and visual queue features are the same as in other GP modules, so it allows you to work between the modules with ease. Also want to mention, I have my demonstration set up today in GP 2015. Current functionality is supported on GP 2015 and GP 2013. However, we do have code for older versions, but they will no longer be enhanced moving forward. And for those of you who are on GP 2016 or are looking to move forward with GP 2016, our release for collections management is set for this week, barring anything that may happen with QA, but the release is set for this Friday for GP 2016 collections as well. One other thing worth mentioning is I do have a number of shortcuts here on my homepage, and that's just for demoing purposes today, but just to know when all functionality and windows are installed, they will reside here in the sales area in GP. All right, so let's take you through collections management here then. So first I want to start with this collections main window. I want to show you the importance of these fields in here, and I also want to demonstrate a number of these actions that we can do as well. So starting by selecting a customer here, I'm going to choose Aaron Fitz Electrical. Now the main window, again, as I mentioned in the PowerPoint, this is really your starting point or command center for the product. It's going to provide a detailed record of your contacts with your customer. So you can pick your customer as we just did, Aaron Fitz, certainly be able to sort through these different address IDs that you have set up for your customer. So if you're trying to collect from Aaron Fitz at more than one location, this would allow you to do that. We have a contact person for our customer here. You can see their phone and fax numbers listed right below that. You can also see the last time this customer made a payment and how much that payment was for. Their payment terms listed right below that. So Aaron Fitz here was on our net 30 payment terms. Year-to-date sales, what this is really just giving us a better idea how big of a customer we're trying to collect from. And then underneath that, we have unposted sales, unposted cash, and unposted orders. So I like to mention that these are drill downs to some core GP windows. So if I click on this unposted sales here, that's going to pull open a SOP document inquiry. So that's core GP, as well as this receivables inquiry window, again, core GP. So you drill into any of those three, they're pulling open those core GP windows. Now, these may be important to review before you do your collecting. First off, your unposted sales here and your unposted orders. Let's say you come into your collections main window, you're looking around, and you see the customer owes you a large amount of money that you still need to collect. You can look back at some of these unposted sales and unposted orders, and perhaps there's a product you haven't shipped to this customer yet, or a service you've carried out for them. You can look at putting a hold on those things until you see your customer start making some of their payments. And to put your customer on hold, you simply check them next to the customer ID. Once you see they start making some of those payments, you can simply check them off of hold. Now additionally, this unposted cash may be important to review as well, in that you come in here again, see the customer owes you a large amount of money, but you also have a lot of unposted cash from your customer. So that's showing you that you have cash from your customer, but it hasn't been applied to the invoices in GP. Again, it's good to look at this unposted cash beforehand so you can potentially avoid an awkward conversation with your customer, reaching out to them asking for payment. When you've already received that payment, it just hasn't been applied in GP. We have a credit manager field listed below that, and that allows a customer to be assigned to a specific credit manager. A large group of customers can also be divided amongst a collection team if necessary. We have our notes listed down here at the bottom. We can create unlimited notes per customer. We also have a new note button at the top of our main window here that allows you to create new notes from scratch, but I'm actually going to demo the notes here in just a few minutes. We then have our customer's aging pulled off to the right side of the window here, and it's worth mentioning that aging is pulled right from accounts receivable, so this information is going to be as current as your last aging routine. So you can drill into any of these aging periods and you can display that, and that's going to pull open a transactional window here and show you the specific invoice or invoices that fall into that specific aging period. Now, if any of you are using the multi-currency function, I just wanted to note that right now you are seeing your customers aging in their functional currency, but this drop down here would allow you to see your customers aging in their originating currency if need be. We then have the total due here, and that's going to be the total amount of what's been invoiced to the customer and what they owe. You can see below that we have a credit limit, salesperson, and territory ID, and those are just standard GP fields. We have our parent ID listed below that, and that allows you to see if they're a part of a national account. So if any of you are using the National Accounts Parent-Child Relationship function in GP, this would allow that, or this would display that here. So, and it's also worth mentioning, we do have a National Accounts option at the top of our window here. So you can do the inquiry and display just a single customer as you're seeing right now, or you could switch it to a group, and that would display the entire national account. So all the notes that have been created for either that parent or child would be displayed here, and then all the accounts receivable totals for that parent and child would be displayed as well. But for today's demoing purposes, I'm going to stick with just a single customer. We then have the collection plan ID displayed here. I'm actually going to demo the plan setup and the plan processing window together later on in the demo, but I just wanted to mention that you would be able to see the plan your customer is assigned to from here. And then we all have the total amount outstanding, and that's going to be the sum of what's been invoiced to the customer, as well as unposted sales and unposted orders. All right, so let me demo those notes here then. Like I said, you can create a new note from scratch at the top of our main window here, but let me just pull open an existing note so you have some data to look at. All right, when these notes are created, then it's going to show the date and the time this note was created. It's going to display the caller ID here, and that's going to be the GP user who came in and created this note. You can see we have an address and contact person set up for our customer here, and then we can assign our note to different priority levels. Bottom portion is the note text. So this is all open text fields. You can type in whatever you need this note to read, or you can even copy and paste an email conversation in here. So it looks like we spoke to Bob Fitz. Bob's telling us he's going to send payment by early next week on a couple of invoices. The next thing the user will do when they create these notes is assign it to an action. So an action is something that you've done, such as a reminder or a follow-up, or it can even be the status of an invoice. Maybe it's in dispute or it's been promised for payment. So I'll show you some examples of these actions. So this action ID field here tracks any follow-up actions that have occurred or that need to occur. So these actions in here, they're all configurable. You'll be able to set up whatever actions make sense for your practice or your specific collecting activities. Most of these are straightforward. You got checks in the mail here, sent to collections. Maybe there's a certain point in time when an invoice gets old. You need to send it to a collection agency, disputing an invoice, so on and so forth. And then each of these actions here can be categorized with one of three different action types. First type here is a promise to pay. So your customer has made some sort of notion that they're going to submit payment on this invoice. Second category is special circumstance. So anything deemed outside of your normal day-to-day collecting activities would fall under that. Third category being dispute. Maybe you're going back and forth with the customer on what needs to be paid on an invoice. You can mark that as dispute. And then if you didn't want to categorize it with one of these three action types, you can just leave it blank as an action as none. So you will assign an action to your note. So in this case, it looks like we have a promise to pay. So the customer is promising to pay this invoice. We have our action date listed below that. And the action date acts as a follow-up task. So what it does is it really leverages the note as a follow-up task. And I'll show everyone the task window here in just a few minutes. But that way you have this note in here telling you, hey, customer told us they're going to submit payment by early next week. But if it comes due and it's still open, we have this note in here that's going to show up on our task window telling us that we need to follow up again because it obviously has not been paid. You also have the ability to assign this to the appropriate credit manager, this note. So if you came into GP and created a note that wasn't for a specific customer that you manage, this would allow you to assign it to the appropriate credit manager. And then the next thing the user will do when they create these notes is select the documents that the note pertains to. So if you drill into that, it's going to pull open a transactional list and pull open all the accounts receivable that that customer has. And you simply just check the ones you would like the note to pertain to. So you can see here I already have a couple selected. Now once I select those, it's going to default this action amount here to the total amount of those invoices that I selected. But you can change this action amount. It is editable. If you have people you're collecting from telling you they can only make a partial payment on these invoices, you can certainly change it to the amount that they said they're going to pay. So let's say you're calling Bob Fitz here. Bob's like, hey everyone, I just can't pay that $3,000 today. However, I do have $2,000 that I can make as a down payment. You can change this action amount to the amount that Bob said he's going to pay. That way when that $2,000 comes through, you can apply this payment in GP and then follow up on the remaining amount with a different note. We have our status listed below this, so this note is currently open because it has not been paid, but once that payment comes through, we can mark it as complete. If we need to cancel our note, or if our note was canceled by one of our plans, we have status reasons for that as well. Now, before I move on from this window here, or this drop-down rather, I do want to mention that we have a button called Mark Complete in our task window, and essentially by clicking that, that goes through and finds all the invoices and notes that have been paid and automatically completes them for you, so you don't have to manually come into each note and complete them. But I will go into more detail as I get into the task window. And then one sort of lesser known feature with the notes here is that any time there's a revision made to the note, it is going to keep a history of those revisions. So you can drill into that as I just did. You can certainly sort through and see if any changes have been made to the note, the revision date, and if it's been modified by any user. So that's the notes. Again, if you have any questions during the demonstration today, don't hesitate to ask those in the GoToMeeting area. Now the next thing I want to touch on here is this total due drill down. So if I click on that, this is going to pull open a transactional list and of all the open accounts receivable for that customer. Some really nice visual cues you get in this window. This little information icon here that's going to let you know that there is a note attached to that document. You also notice there are some letters next to these as well. So this P here will denote that it's been promised for payment. You can see the total amount down here and what the customer is promising to pay us. The cool thing about these promised payment notes is that, let's say this action date goes past due, your customer did not submit payment on the invoice, it's automatically going to change this P into a B, which will denote a broken promise. So then you're easily able to tell which ones did not get paid on time. A couple more letters at the bottom. We do have a D that denotes it's in dispute. S will denote special circumstance. You can see the total amount being disputed down here, the total amount deemed special, and then the remaining amount that the customer owes that hasn't been categorized. So that's where those action types come into play, and you can inquire on groups like that. Now, a new feature that we've added to collections is having the ability to send a payment link in your collection emails. So this is one area in collections where you would be able to quickly do that. So this feature is called Pay Link. So off to the right side here, you would select the documents that you want to create a pay link for. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And at the top of the window here, this Create Pay Link, if I click that, that's going to generate an email from a user-defined template that I created that includes the pay links for the documents that I selected. So you can see the two pay links here for those documents. Just a couple quick questions for you internally. Whether you write them down or not is fine. So one question I typically ask is, does your company own credit card payments? If any of you answered yes, that's awesome, because this integration is with a GPE payment solution called Credit Card Advantage from a company called Notice. So would it entitle you to own the CCA or Credit Card Advantage piece from Notice as well? If you don't accept credit cards, that's fine as well. PayLink also allows your customers to pay via e-check as well. So if anyone would like any more information on the back end of how this Notice PayLink integration works, I'm more than happy to set up a call with Notice and myself. Otherwise, I can just provide some more information and details on how it works. But let me just kind of show you how this quickly works from my end. So I'm going to send this email here to myself. You can see it's a fairly quick process, and the email is sent directly from this window. I'm just going to wait a second here. You can see that email comes across fairly quick as well, and then this would be the email that your customer receives on their end. So you can see the two documents that I selected. So you can see, so your customer will be able to see this in their window. From here, they can drill into this or drill into that link, and it's going to pull open their outstanding invoice details. From here, they would be able to pay that invoice via credit card, or as I previously mentioned, they can pay via e-check as well. So I'll make sure to follow up in my email today, this afternoon, with the recording of today's webinar and kind of touch on some of the PayLink information as well. If anybody wants to set up that phone call or just wants more information, please just let me know. All right, now back to collections management here. So now I want to run through some of these actions that we can do in collections. First off, I want to start with the task window here. So what this task window is it's essentially the to-do list, your to-do list for the day. So I'm going to change my action date, just so you have some more data to look at. Now this collection management task window here organizes your follow-ups to help ensure prompt collections. So all of the outstanding action items for a particular collector can be viewed in this window. Individual notes can be opened or marked complete from here as well. And this is where that mark completed button comes into play. So if you were to click this button here, it's automatically going to mark outstanding items as completed if all the invoices attached to the note have been paid in full. So as I mentioned earlier, what this mark paid note functionality is really doing is it's saving your collectors from manually having to check whether or not a customer has paid each outstanding invoice. It's automatically going to do that for them. Now, one other thing to know while you're in here is you can select the collector ID. I kind of touched on that already. But if you didn't have the ID selected in here and you just left it blank, it would show you all of your open tasks. So maybe you got somebody out on vacation, a collector out on vacation, and you wanted to make sure you did the follow-ups for that user. This window would allow you to work on other people's tasks, and then you can also sort here by the action date or the action ID. So that's the task window. Next thing I want to highlight is this emailing functionality. So let's say you're calling Bob Fitz here. You're collecting from Bob, and Bob's requested that you send him some invoices. You can quickly send a one-off email directly from this window. If the customer's maintenance card is set up with an email and a contact, you can add that right to the window. You can also copy in or blind copy anybody as well. And then also in collections management, you have the ability to set up what we call collection letters. So letter templates can easily be created for printing, faxing, or emailing to customers. And letters is kind of an older term, but if you think of them as message templates, you can use them in this window. So I'm going to drill into these templates here. So these are all the different templates that I have set up. These are all configurable. I'll show everyone how to set these letters up in just a few minutes, but let me just pick one here so you have an idea of how this works. All right. So once I have that letter selected, it's going to allow me to select whatever invoices I need to attach to this email. So you can see here we have a transactional list down at the bottom here where we simply just check the invoices we would like to attach. So let's go ahead and select a few. Now once I have those invoices selected, I'm going to come back up into my main window, or my body, and I'm going to click this blue refresh button. At that time, it's going to do a few things for me. Number one, it's going to list out the detail of the invoices in the body of the email. Number two, it's going to print these invoices, and then it's also going to attach these as PDF documents. So that's the emailing functionality. One quick question that I typically get on my demonstrations is, do you have the ability to send any external attachments? Absolutely. As you can see here in the bottom right, we do have this attachments folder or attachments tab. From here, you'd be able to browse and attach anything external that you needed to for this email. One other action I want to cover today before moving on to the plan setup is this query option here. So one of the first problems with collections is finding the customers that you should be calling first. Most companies using GP today collect using an age trial balance where the customers are sorted alphabetically and not by collector. So you can use this build queries window here to target the customers that you specifically want to work with. So I'll show you the standard collection query here first. So this query here allows me to develop a list of customers based on a number of different restrictions. So I can sort by a balance that customer owes, that balance is greater than their credit limit, sort by different aging periods, due dates, document dates, different notes, or different action types. Really a lot of different restriction options we're giving you there to query your customers. So let me just pull open one I've already created. So this is looking for customers on my high-risk plan over their credit limit. So you can see the restrictions I have set on the bottom. I'm looking for customers on my high-risk collection plan as well as those who have a balance greater than their credit limit. So once I have those restrictions set, I'm going to run the query, click yes, and at that time it's going to tell me how many records it searched, how many met my restrictions, and of those who met my restrictions, their total balance and their overdue balance. So if I click OK here, it's going to save that query, and you notice we went back to the main window and we went from viewing all of our customers to just the ones who are in that query. So once this query is generated, you have the option of sending a letter, statement, and invoices to all the customers in that query. And then you can also hit this customer lookup, and that's going to show you the customers who met your restrictions. So you can see the two here that met my restrictions. You can see their balance overdue as well as their total due. So that's the standard query. Now, a newer feature that we've added is this, the ability to run an advanced query. So the advanced query gives you the ability to enter SQL script to query your data. So if you wanted to manually write these yourself, you can certainly do that. Maybe you have somebody who's knowledgeable with SQL and wants to create a different script than what we have here. Again, they can do that as well. Really, we're just giving you the ability to use that SQL script to query your data. All right, so that wraps up the collections main window. Next two windows I want to touch on are the plan setup and the plan processing window. As I previously mentioned, those two will be tied together. So let's start with the plan setup here first. So what these collection plans are essentially a set of steps or workflows that execute actions based on your customer's oldest invoice. So we have a few different plans set up here already. This is my good customer plan. This might be something I assign to my premium accounts, or those who are notorious for making their payments on time. I have a high-risk plan here. This might be something I assigned to my previously late-paying customers. And then a regular standard plan here. Maybe I use this as my default plan and assign to all of my new customers. Now, if you're looking at the steps in any of these plans here, these are all configurable. Again, it's being tailored based on your customer's oldest invoice. So the first step in this plan actually happens 7 days before the invoice is due. So a negative amount in the first step. And what's happening is we're executing an action called soon due. So I can drill into any of these actions. So I'll drill into this soon due. I notice that this soon due happens to be a letter that they get. So I'm going to drill into that letter as well. This pulls open my standard letter maintenance window. Again, I'll show everyone how to create these letters in just a few minutes here. But in this letter here, or this note, we're letting them know that they have invoices with us that will soon be considered overdue. We also list out the invoices in the body of the email here. And the invoices we configure to be attached to this email include all invoices not overdue. Really a lot of different restriction options here for which types of invoices you want to attach to the email. You could do all disputed invoices, promised or special invoices, or you could just choose all of the customer's invoices if you wanted. Now this window is also going to allow you to copy in or blind copy anybody as well. Excuse me, the salesperson as well. And then we've also included this function tabs here, as I mentioned earlier. Maybe you put the invoicing details in here, or you could just make the letter sound more personal. Maybe you put the customer's name in here. Now when you're creating these letters, you have two options. Number one, you can use this standard letter maintenance window. Or number two, you can use this Microsoft Word document attachment. So essentially, if you were to use this Word doc or check this Word doc box, you'd be able to use the same functions, you would still be able to use the same verbiage. The only difference is that this Word document would be sent as an attachment to the email, whereas this letter maintenance here, that's going to be the actual text of the body of your email. So let's hop back into the plans here. Now before I run through the rest of these plans, I want to show everyone how to create those letters. So in the sales area here in GP, if you come up to the customer cards, you scroll down, you'll come across collection letters. So this pulls open that standard letter maintenance window and allows you to create those letters from scratch. Yeah, as I mentioned, this is something you can tailor towards specific customer emails, specific customers in general, or your collection plans. Really allows you to tailor for, again, those specific customers. But let's hop back into the plans here. Now this is going to take your customer through the steps in this plan here as long as their invoice has not been paid. So 5 days past due, we send a reminder, 14 days a phone call, 30 to 45 a couple letters, followed by a couple more phone calls. Coming in at 90 days past due, the final action. So the final action or any action can be a reminder to the collector internally. You got customer so-and-so now 90 days past due. We need to put their account on hold, or we need to send them to a legal department. So once they've reached the last step in their plan, you have two options. Number one, you can keep repeating that last step. So maybe you send the customer an email every 30 days telling them that their account is on hold, or you could just have the plan stop suggesting next actions. In this case, you would have to determine manually what you want to do with the invoices for that customer. One other thing worth mentioning here is this minimum amount due. Again, based on your customer's oldest outstanding invoice, if that invoice does not meet this minimum amount, then it's not going to take them through the steps in this plan. So you can set a floor here for what needs to be collected on each collection plan. A good example I like to give is, let's say you have a customer assigned to a standard collection plan. You do millions of dollars worth of business with them every year, but for some weird reason they have a $5 invoice that's past due. You're not going to want to take them through the steps in this plan or send them a number of threatening actions unless it is over that minimum invoice amount. And again, you can set up different minimums here for each plan that you have set up. So that's the plans themselves. Now this plan processing window is going to execute all of those actions. So what you're looking at is in this window is all of your customers, all of the ones who are on those collection plans, and the ones who are scheduled to get their next actions from those collection plans. So you can sort and process these actions in a number of different ways. You can look at all of your customers with a balance, your overdue customers. You can sort by a collector or a query that you've built, or you can just look at all the customers who have reached the end of their plan. Today I'm going to choose overdue customers. Now I can search the queue here by the customer name, the plan they're assigned to, the last action they received, and the next action they're scheduled to get. So just to kind of explain how this works, let me choose next action. I'll choose first letter. So if I pick the first letter, I know the first letter is a safe and subtle action, fairly early step in the collection plan, so I don't go through and worry about who's getting those. I just go ahead and process all those customers. But for today's demo, I do want you to be able to look at all the customers here, so I'm going to change that back to all. Now the overall goal of this window is for you to be able to come in here, do a quick review of your customers and the actions they're scheduled to get. But let's say you're running through your list and you come across a company, Atmore Retirement Center, because you just spoke with them on the phone yesterday. You can select that customer as I just did, and in the middle of the window it's going to show you the documents that are due for payment. So you can pick and choose which ones you want to include for this action. And at the bottom portion here we have the letter text. So you can modify this. You can type in whatever you want this note to say. So you may be putting here, hey Jane, I know we spoke on the phone yesterday, but I just wanted to send you those invoices that you owe us. Again, you can modify that quickly and then process just that customer. Or you can come back into the queue, delete them, and that would take them out of there temporarily and let you process all of your other actions. Again, the overall goal of this window is for you to be able to come in here, do a quick review of your customers and the actions they're scheduled to get, and then process all your customers. So I'm going to do that. Once I process all those customers, it's going to give me a summary here based on the plan my customers are assigned to. So in my good customer plan, we sent 8 emails of a final letter. We sent 4 emails of a first letter. On my high risk plan, looks like we're sending 16 emails of a final letter, so on and so forth. But let's say we have a customer that's scheduled to get their next action, but they don't have an email address set up with us. It is going to warn us to go back and set them up with an email address. So you can see here I have a customer who is warning us to go back and set them up. Otherwise, at the bottom, we do have the option to send those who do have an email and print those who do not. In that case, you would have to send the printed ones through the mail or however you wanted to contact your customer. So that's the collection plans and processing window. Last 2 windows I want to touch on here are the Receivable Summary window and the DSO Calculator. So this collection summary window here allows your managers or really anybody to review accounts receivable summary information. So you can do it by a credit manager. You can do it by a current query that you've built or a parent company and really see how each credit manager is doing in regards to collecting. Or if you leave it blank like I have right now and you click Calculate, it's going to do all of your accounts receivable for you. So this top portion here is your standard receivable summary information. The middle portion here is the summary information on your notes. So you can see here how many disputed notes you have, how many promised payment notes you have. But the 2 most important fields on this window are, first of all, notes past the contact date. So shown here that we have 6 notes that have gone past the action date. From there we'll be able to drill in and see those 6 notes. And then the most important field on this window is overdue documents not on a note. Bear with me, this is my demoing data, so shown here I have nearly $1 million of past due invoices that I don't have a note for. So essentially I don't know why they haven't been paid. So from here we could drill into this window as well, and a credit manager could assign these to different collectors for follow-ups, or you could just use it as your call down list and create new notes. The bottom portion here, this is just your customer's aging. So that's the summary window. Next I want to touch on is this DSO calculator. So this allows your users to pick a specific period and calculate the DSO for that period. So I'm going to go ahead and calculate it for the period I have set. You can see here it automatically does that for you. You can see your sales for that period, average sales per day, sales outstanding, and day sales outstanding. And then you can add that to a log here at the bottom and track your DSO over time. But the way collections is set up now, every time you log into GP, it will automatically default this add, and it will automatically log that for you. Now I lied, this isn't the last window I want to show you today. I actually want to touch on the smart list here as well. It's a fairly common question. Do you have any predefined smart lists that come with collections? Absolutely. The first one here, and this is the one I have displayed on my demo environment, is the collection management notes. So you'd have a smart list for the notes here. You can see your customer, the action, their promise, who it's assigned to for the collector, and then you can also see the status of that note as well. We also have a smart list for the standard receivables information. So that wraps up the collections management demonstration.